IPMNation.com.
Nah, who needs air conditioning? Who needs air conditioning? I think it just dehydrates me. Air conditioning. Who needs it?
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full context psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Oh, that's going to leave an echo. All right, so we're back. Welcome to All Natural Being. Sorry about that. I'm Brian Brawdy, fired up to be spending an hour with you today, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's where you happen to be listening. Wherever you're listening, really. I'm fired up to be spending a full hour with you, kind of like your tag team partner, your shotgun partner, as we used to say in law enforcement. You hop in a car, you didn't want to drive, so you'd holler, I'm shotgun. And, the rookie had to drive. Someone else had to drive. So consider me your ride-along partner in this great big gig called life. I'm here 5 days a week on IPM Nation to simply help pare away some of the craziness that's attached itself to us throughout life. Knowing full well that when we do that, we're left with our all-natural being. We're left minus this learned helplessness, right? Where we think, we got to have a crutch. We got to have a set of flotation device, some water wings. We got to have some training wheels. We got to have some of these things. What I'm here to do 5 days a week, and, over at iTunes and wherever you get the broadcast, I'm here to pare away some of those things. Because when we get down to the all-natural you, when you and I work together simply to remind you of who you ultimately are, then we jettison all this learned helplessness and we're ready to go. So if you've been following me, I guess today is episode number 91. If you've been following me, you know that I'm not a fan of the self-help industry tactics, not a fan of the higher consciousness cartel. I think your current consciousness is fantastic. Maybe a little bit of amnesia, few blind spots sprinkled in here or there. I don't think there's anything wrong with your consciousness as you have it right now. The motivational industrial complex. Everything they do to convince you that you're defective. There's something wrong with you. That yes, I need a goal-setting program because if I can only get to X, if I can pass go and collect $200, well, this is going to be a great gig. Well, I'm here to remind you that it's an excavation. Life isn't about expectation. It's not a transformation. It's a restoration. It's a reinstatement of who you truly are already. No mashugana, no blind spots, no craziness. So I guess you could say, I'm not a fan of people. I'm going to reinvent myself. My position would be, why not just vent who you already are? No more reinventing. We don't need that. We go through life, though, all hung up on the cosmetic and the ornamental aspects of our life. But here's the deal. Why compromise your composition, let's say? Why turn your back on who you already are, on your all-natural being? Why fall for the miseducation of your mind? And I think that's what's happened. I think you look around the world today and people say, it's a source of all, what's the source of all the craziness going on? Miseducation. At least to a certain degree. Because if you've been following along with the rest of us at all, the kindred here at All Natural Being, and believe me, we're a minority. How many times do I say, hey, look, this show may not be for you. If you're comfortable being a couch potato, If your goal in life is to be the Venus flytrap, the walking, talking Venus flytrap for those people in your life that want to tap into their all-natural being, that want to retake control, then this show's probably not for you. Because I'm going to do a pretty, I don't know how effective it'll be, but I'm going to slam you at every turn. I'm just saying, it's my gig. If you're one of those never-ending, bottomless pits of quicksand, sucking in everything around you because you're comfortable being a cognitive couch potato, pretty sure this show not for you. I'm just saying. But for the people that I get up for every day, that I get excited for the kindred, we're the minority. We're a minority because of the miseducation of the general mind, of the herd mind, of the hive mind. And I think today in our show we're going to say some things that will be pretty controversial. Most certainly. If not today, and we get to it on Monday is going to tick some people off. But when we talk about the miseducation of your mind, you and I needed, at the very beginning stages of our life, till we grow up one day, you and I needed some help. Got an article this morning I'm looking forward to sharing with you. We'll talk about specifically what they're finding now with little kids working the way they do. You and I needed some help. But we get to an age where we say, you're welcome to take the training wheels back. Can we go ahead and disconnect them? You're welcome to have the water wings back. I'm not going to need them anymore. I don't need any flotation devices. If I'm in this rodeo, I don't need a rodeo clown. I can do this on my own. And the miseducation comes in because people are going to say, oh no, you always need a safety net. You always need, you need some crutches. The Gossamer clan, the Gossamer gang, Gossamer clutch, they're there to say, oh, no. We need to continue to prop you up. You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. You're not old enough. You're not smart enough. You're not wise enough. You're not talented enough to do it on your own. What are you thinking? That's crazy talk. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can do it on your own. Now, let me just say, so I got an email yesterday going, well, are you saying community isn't important? Are you saying that we don't need those people around us? God, I would love to say yes to that. But for those of us that know what's going on, those of us that have been initiated by life, those of us that have grown up, those of us that have tossed away our training wheels and water wings, we go, no. We just want to make sure that we enter in that community from the vantage point of our all-natural being. And I will tell you, a little bit of a drum roll, I'm convinced everyone says, well, you got to have community. Do you know why I think that is? Because I think we're already connected. And it's not so much that we need community, is that the absence of that is unnatural. The absence of that connection is unnatural because at your core, you're all connected. But they want to flip that around and go, well, you have to have, you already are community. You already are a mind in a labyrinth. Your neighbor's mind, labyrinth as well. Kids' minds, significant others' minds, co-workers' minds, teammates' minds. Labyrinth. So we're a bunch of labyrinths moving in and around. So loneliness, when people say, well, loneliness is really tough, it is. But it's tough because it's unnatural. When we feel disconnected, that's a lie. Because at our core, in our mind's marrow, the very just grit and substance of who we are, we're already connected. And that's what all natural being is all about. And I say all the time, that's why I think we're still number one. Because it's a show about you, the tough you, the resilient you. And, here's another thing. A lot of times people say, well, I've heard you say that optimism is no better than pessimism. I just like ism. I like the ability that you and I possess naturally to handle whatever fate throws at us. Now, all kinds of studies, great studies too, that say, well, if you're optimistic, you're able to fight off disease, you're able to fight off unhappiness, you're able to fight off all these other things. What I'm suggesting, if you're ambiistic, let's say, that you're comfortable enough with yourself. You have that confidence. You have that courage that no matter what comes, good or bad, you're like, I'm in. Let's do this. Welcome to the jungle. Now, the miseducation of the mind says, oh, no, you better hope. You better hope. You better pray. You better long for a better future. Well, the moment you and I do that, then we communicate to ourselves that there's something about the present that sucks. Something about this that we're not supposed to be digging. We're not supposed to be thriving right now in our minds because there's got to be something wrong. That's the miseducation of the mind that we're talking about. Because you were born a superhuman. You were born a metahuman. You weren't born to be subject to binge thinking, the little pigeonholes all over your mind, which lead to the cognitive crevasses of thought that trap you. Oh, it's going to be a tough day. Oh, it's going to be a great day. No, it is going to be a day. And when you and I remember who the hell we are, what we're capable of, our natural resilience, our natural wisdom, our natural brilliance, our natural boldness, when you remember who you are, you don't have to be optimistic. You don't have to be pessimistic. You're, again, maybe we coined the phrase, ambamistic. Because we'll handle. We're thankful to be here for the ability to handle whatever fate throws at us. You and I aren't, I was thinking about this yesterday. We get a box of cereal and it says, or like some potato chips, or I don't know, maybe fruit, I don't know. But you ever seen those warnings? Oh, some settling may occur during shipping. So, like, if you open a box of cereal and it's you're only half full of Wheaties, you're like, what the hell happened to the rest of the box? Oh, don't worry. Some settling occurs during shipping. Well, you and I don't have to settle. We go through the labyrinth. We don't have to be settled. We most certainly don't have to take a back seat. We don't have to make a compromise. We most certainly don't want to compromise our natural composition. We don't want to turn our backs on who we ultimately are. So for those that are comfortable,
oh, well, that's okay. On my way, because there was a little bit of settling in shipping, and I got to this stage in my life, so I'm good with
the settling. God love you. Thanks. You want to hang out? I don't think you're going to dig this show. But you're welcome. God love you. But to those of you that reach the point where you go, you know what? There's got to be a better way for me to be. There's got to be a way for me, again, not to create some big transformation, but just a restoration of who you already are. A reinstatement of the real you. No more philosophical plastic surgery. No more reinventing yourself. As I said in the open, just vent who you already are. Let it out into the light of day. This is an excavation. It's not about expectation.
Oh, well, you watch. One day.
No. Make today that day. It's in you. So no more binge thinking. I've been getting a lot of pushback, too, about this thing about goals.
Oh, you got to have goals, Bri. Oh, come on, Bri. You know you got to have goals.
I don't believe it. I think when you tap into your all-natural being, it's more of an unfolding. You'll find batteries included, yes. You'll find a hardwired mission. Something that when you stop long enough to contemplate your all-natural being, that mission is a part of it. Your mind, it has a motif. It has a through line. And that through line connects you in this moment with your destiny. That thing that you're to manifest while you're here. It's not a goal. It's not a care. It's not something that we're always moving towards. It's already in us. And when I say over at brianbry.com or allnaturalbeing.com, well, it's all the time. Stop. You already possess everything you've ever needed. No more carrots at the end of the stick. Put them in a juicer. Make yourself a nice little cool, refreshing drink. Which, believe me, I could use this morning because apparently the air conditioning is out here. Look, who doesn't want to sit on top of your computer just all nice and warm and humid? That's the way to be. So today, let's talk about the miseducation of our minds and why, at some level, we continue to fall for all those people telling us we're defective, that there's something wrong with us. Sigmund Freud, alleged the big fraud that he was. Sigmund Freud, infecting everyone for years with his thought that, all you could do is hope to mitigate some of the unhappiness. That's all it is. Life is unhappiness. Sprinkle in a little of Schopenhauer and what I think were his weaker moments, but sprinkle in a little bit of the philosopher Schopenhauer. And why would anyone ever get out of bed in the morning? But we know that's not true. It's not about mitigating unhappiness. It's about remembering who you ultimately are at your core. And when you do that, everything else is identified as it should be. All those things. Frost has got the poem, The Road Not Taken. A lot of people are comfortable being a couch potato. And they're going to when you identify yourself as a part of the minority, you want a minority? That's a minority. When you identify yourself as a part of the minority that goes, no, I'm not going to settle for all the bat crap crazy going on in the world today. Most certainly not going to settle it for going on in my own life. I'm here to kick in some freaking doors. Again, please accept my apology for the law enforcement analogy. Oh, probably a good time for me to tell you, I'm not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a licensed clinical anything. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm not someone that has a face for anything other than radio. I think it's important to always get that in. No more binge thinking. No more miseducation of your mind. And no more putting up with the people that are going to fault you for being a minority. Because we are in a minority. That we decide that we're going to just grab fate by the throat and wring the very best of life out of our moment, this specific sliver of time, here in the labyrinth. That makes us a minority. So people are going to give pushbacks. Oh, you got to have goals. All right, let's take a quick break. We got a lot of cool stories to get to today, so this will be a short one.
IPMNation.com.
IPMNation.com. All right, so I can't help but mention the Olympics. But there's so many other things to talk about this morning, so maybe what we'll do is we'll save the Olympic story for the very end, because I want to talk to you about a report that I found in Science Daily, a couple of them, as a matter of fact. The first one is talking about, believe it or not, it's almost like a sign in for the Ripleys. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, exercise does more good if you believe it will. Summary. People benefit from exercise when they believe that it will have a positive effect, new research indicates. A psychologist and his team have conducted a study demonstrating that test subjects derive more psychological as well as neurophysiological benefits from exercise if they already have positive mindsets about working out, about training, about being physically active, about sports. Moreover, quote, the team provided evidence that test subjects can be positively or negatively influenced in this regard before even engaging in the exercise. So instead of going through the whole article, because I don't want to run out of time this morning, a boatload of people put into all different kinds of things, and they found if they had a great mindset going in, the workout benefited them greatly. If it didn't, it didn't. So all I'm suggesting is that it talks about here, quote, the results demonstrate that our belief in how much we believe we will benefit from physical activity, end quote, just so I can throw in my own thing here. I think we could leave that blank, and I think it could read, the results demonstrate that our belief in how much we believe we will benefit from X, fill in the blank, has a considerable effect on our well-being in the manner of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So if we believe going in, whether it's walking, whether it's exercise, whether it's studying, whether it's whatever it is we're going to do, when we come at it from our all-natural being, when we come at it and go, well, whatever it is, I can handle it. Whatever the benefit there is in there, I'm going to grab it. So now it says that our belief, even in exercise, if you believe it's burning more calories, if you believe it's making you more physically fit, if you believe it's making you happier, you believe it's making you smarter, if you believe it's making you more resilient, fill in the blank. Quote, the results demonstrate that our belief in how much we will benefit from blank has a considerable effect on our well-being in the manner of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The report finishes up by saying, quote, beliefs and expectations could possibly have long-term consequences. You think? For instances, on our motivation to engage in exercise. Goes on to talk about if they rouse ourselves next time we go jogging, and we're going to have a greater benefit from that jogging. So I say, whatever we're going to do, fill in the blank any way you like, however you want to do it, that when we go into it going, I'm here to take it. Let's go. Bring it. Bring it, bring it, bring it. Then your mind goes, man, she is not messing around today. Let's get to it. It's time to tear the cover off this. I think your all-natural being goes, now, yep, he's on it. We're firing all cylinders here. And it fascinates me because all these scientific studies, and this is not a petition for spirituality on one side, science on the other, however you come to this understanding, all these different studies, all these different reports, all these different things confirm your all-natural being. That when you do something wholeheartedly and go, yes, I'm deciding what I'm doing right now. This is where I'm investing both my mental and physical attention. Of course there's going to be a benefit. Of course there's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. But all these people run around, oh no, we can't talk about that. It's not empirically testable. Then how do all these reports continue to come up? Here's another one I want to talk to you about this morning. In terms of your all-natural being, the summary, going the distance. Babies reach farther with adults around. The summary, 8-month-old infants are much more likely to reach... Well, let me say these are from Science Daily, these last two reports. I love these guys and girls, if I can say girls, gals, ladies. Quote, 8-month-old infants are much more likely to reach towards distant toys, aren't we all, when an adult is present than when they are by themselves, according to the research. The findings suggest that 8-month-olds understand when they need another person's help to accomplish a task and act accordingly. 8-month-old infants, according to the study, are much more likely to reach towards distant toys when an adult is present than when they are by themselves, according to recent research published in Psychological Science. Quote, babies are sensitive to the social context that surrounds them and plan their actions while taking this social context into account, says the author from the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics in the Netherlands. Quote, our findings show that infants plan their actions in regards not only to what they can do, but also what the social world around them can do for them. This research lends some support to parents, understanding that their infants' actions at this age are communicative. All I would suggest, we could distill this down, that, of course, when we engage in the labyrinth, one of the cool things about babies is that, as we talked about, they need some training wheels. They need some water wings. They need some crutches. They need some flotation devices. They need parents there to be able to go for it. Let's do this. I'm right here. Don't be afraid. I'll get you through this stage. But if you're an 80-year-old that's still waiting for the people sitting around to encourage you to go after a toy that's unreachable, then don't you think it's time to turn in some of the bubble wrap? The very beginning, we're encouraged by the people around us. But there is a shelf life to that coddling. There is a shelf life to that need for outside buoyancy. And sooner or later, those of us here in the minority, those actively recruiting their all-natural being, we're not 8-month-olds. We get it. We get it. We needed it. We thank everyone for the lessons that we were taught early on. We got it. I'm in. But for those of us that decide to go after our all-natural being, not that much help anymore, really. Yes, I'm still saying community is important, but I'm suggesting that if you go into community, why not go in with who you really are? Because if not, you're being counterfeit. You're being a fake. You're being a fraud. Probably not as big a fraud as Freud, but you get where I'm going with this. If we go into it feeling fragmented, if we go into it feeling depressed, if we go into it feeling injured or wounded or somehow less than what we already are, it's no wonder the surroundings can be so tough, because we're not bringing the truth. You are the truth.
Oh, why don't you ever talk about truth on the show?
I talk about truth on the show all the time. You are that truth. Just something to think about. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
How much longer will you let them hijack your head and heart? It's the bottom of the hour here at All Natural Being. Don't forget 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL if you want to reach out. Also, allnaturalbeing.com. Send me an email. I'll send you one back. We'll connect that way. Let me see. Oh, some other cool news this morning. The computers arrived, the cameras, everything that we're needing now to continue to build towards video next week, actually doing a video show. Heaven help us all. We're working on that. I'll be working on that really hard this weekend. And give me an idea. What are you working on this weekend? Did you find yesterday a way that you could treat yourself? I told you about stopping for my little tub of watermelon. Let me tell you, I'll be doing that today. If we don't get this air conditioning things worked out, I'll be looking for some watermelon refreshment a bit later in the day. All right, but here's one of the things that I could do. This comes from Science News, and I'm a huge fan of this. Here's some things I could do today if I start to feel a little bit too warm, a little too sweaty, a little too uncomfortable because of the heat and humidity here. Whoa. According to this article, an out-of-body experience can tackle chronic pain. Research shows. New study published in the European Journal of Pain. I'm sure these are great, folks, but you ever wonder about that, the European Journal of Pain? How about if we did the European Journal of Pain-Free Living? Everyone, like Freud, it's about pain management. New study published in the European Journal of Pain shows that inducing a virtual out-of-body experience can significantly reduce the intensity of chronic pain. And they define chronic pain, for those of us that have it, for those of you that know what we're talking about. Chronic pain is one that persists for at least 3 months. It's a growing societal concern. A recent large-scale survey found that 19% of adults reported suffering from chronic pain. 19% of adults. 1 in 5, really. But now, research is saying that full-body illusions induce a feeling of ownership for a virtual body, and feeling that one's self is located outside of one's own body. Well, maybe not outside of the body, but imagine just like what we do when we watch ducks float by. If we have a chronic pain, we're able to step back a step back, almost as if you're watching. Well, we do it in a couple different ways. If you remember back probably 10, 15 years ago, Tony Robbins, I am not your guru. Tony Robbins made Bandler and Grinder's work popular with neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. But we're talking about one of the strategies that you could do in NLP was that stage one, imagine seeing yourself on a screen. You're looking through your own eyes. You're looking up on a screen. You see yourself going through it. The next step of removal is imagine that you're sitting in the balcony looking down on yourself, watching a movie of yourself going through the pain. So now there's a you on the screen. There's a you down below having some popcorn, some pop, whatnot, watching the movie of you. And then there's an extended version of you, which is in the balcony looking down on this. Well, the more we remove ourselves from seeing it with our own eyes, the better off we are. Which is why I put in this morning when we talked about our anaerobic aphorism. When we talked about when going through dark times, it's best to do it with your eyes open. The dark times, the pain, doesn't communicate the emotion. We craft the emotion based on the incoming stimulus. So when it comes to dealing with pain, according to this report, the out-of-body experience doesn't have to be anything more mystical than going, imagine you're watching a movie of you up on a screen and you're sitting in the balcony looking down over you, having some goobers, some Raisinets, some Diet Coke, right? You're sitting there watching your flick, but you're watching you from upstairs in the balcony. There's your out-of-body experience. We don't need any other virtual, I love this.
Oh, well, we have to get a virtual reality headset.
Unless you're going through what we're going through, which is a sporadic power outage today, and you forgot, oh, damn, I didn't plug in my virtual reality headset. What will I do now? Well, let me see. I could run with scissors. I could play in traffic. I could, right? Or I could just go, wait a minute. What did we talk about today on All Natural Being? Imagine I'm watching a movie of myself on my smartphone, seeing it through my own eyes. And then I step back. Maybe I'm like in the back seat of the car, watching the driver that is me, watching a video, a movie, a still photo of me, which is on my smartphone. That's the out-of-body experience. And not that we want to turn this into a whole NLP thing, a whole NLP show, but if you're not familiar with neuro-linguistic programming, one of the things that you can do in terms of mitigating the pain is make sure that when you're watching the movie that's on the screen, it's black and white, the sound's turned down, it's a smaller picture. We know now, as we've talked about, when we said, believe it or not, exercise is better for you if you believe it's going to be good for you. Well, then all you have to do is look and say, okay, well, then maybe in terms of the pain management, let's make the movie on the screen. Let's not make it Jumbotron, surround sound, whatever they have in movie theaters today, right? Let's make it a small black and white film. Take away some of its energy. Well, there's your out-of-body experience. Now, according to this study, it says patients suffering from a range of long-term chronic pain conditions took part in the experiment. They created this full body illusion, and they disassociated themselves from their bodies. Well, you and I work all the time to disassociate ourselves from our binge thinking. It says, quote, this reduction arguably constitutes a clinically useful analgesic effect, which means it takes away the pain. But if you can't say that, just can't say it takes away the pain. So what you and I can do, just like we said, what we believe or not believe. Now, let me say this. I with the low back pain that I fight. Oh, and you know what else? You know what's kind of the worst pain I think I've ever gone through? I don't know if you have this or not. If you do, let me know. 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. That is SOUL. But heel spur, you know, the where your bottom of your foot, that is the most painful thing ever. So I'm not belittling people's pain. I am belittling the attention that we pay to it. Are there some tricks? Are there some hacks? We talked yesterday about how to hack your brain to gain the ultimate advantage, which is you. You are the ultimate advantage. And this out-of-body experience is no different than you and I sitting watching those thoughts come by. Oh, there goes a duck. Floaty, floaty. There goes the duck, right? Leaves in a storm. Whoa! Just watching them blow by. Well, we can tap in to our all-natural being. Our all-natural being is that energy that fuels our attention. And then we watch a version of ourselves, watching a version of ourselves, experiencing a black and white, lousy audioed video of our pain. All you got to do is try it. Maybe for a 20-minute victory today, you could say, okay, what is the pain that I have? Whether it's a physical pain, a philosophical pain, a psychological pain, a spiritual pain. What if you could remove yourself a bit from it? Which leads me to kind of some of the learned helplessness, a term, I think it was created or quoted or brought together by Dr. Siegelman. Martin, I don't know him personally, but seems like a really cool guy. I dig some of his work. I dig his books. But he talks about this learned helplessness where we're just like, oh, Brian, it's going to be brutal. There's nothing I can do. I'm not even going to try to fight it. Let me just go through it. Well, what if that's not the case? What if you and I, for a 20-minute victory, could work on some things that would help us mitigate the pain? And then get it to such a point where we go, oh, what pain? What are we doing? We can go back to being our natural, happy selves. This learned helplessness, where we just kind of sit by and we let life, we let fate, we let the lefts and rights in the labyrinth smack us around and go, Or we stand up for ourselves. We become a spiritual survival. We become a spiritual self-defense expert. That's what makes you and I a part of the minority. Learn helplessness. Maybe benefiting other people, but it's not benefiting you and I. So what are some of the ways that you've adopted this concept of learned helplessness? And how can we get the heck rid of it? We don't need it. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
It's never too late to take your life back. Boy, do I believe that. Or as I like to call it, neuroscience, neuroplasticity in a nutshell. Every opportunity is the perfect opportunity to push off. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, I dig watching the Olympics. I have to tell you, everyone's upset. They don't like the commentators because they try to be cute. They don't like all the commercials. They don't like this and that. But when you just get down to the mind of the athlete, what she or he is thinking in that particular moment, you just have to be thrilled. And I bring it up in the context of all natural being because you have that same capability. You have that same bag of tricks. You have that same grit, that same determination. Now, it may be that you've decided at whatever stage in your life not to tap into that reservoir of resilience, what I like to call the ROI, the return on intrepidness. Maybe you decided not to tap into it. But I wanted to bring up one of the articles where the young lady last evening, where Simone says, I'm not the next anybody. I'm the first Simone Biles. Everyone's saying this is the greatest, absolute greatest Olympian ever. At 19. Best gymnast of all time, some are calling her. That made me think back to, even though she's saying, let me pull the article up so I can read to you exactly what she's saying. I'm me. I'm not the next Usain Bolt or the next Michael Phelps. I'm me. I'm the first Simone Biles. Just like Michael Phelps said that one couple Olympics back. He said, today I became the best Michael Phelps I could. So when you hear that, you have to sit up and take notice. First Michael, now Simone going, I'm the best me. I'm the best me. You have that within you, most certainly. Another one, if you have to watch Katie Ledecky and what she goes through. I mean, you talk about dominating in the pool. Just like Simone did on the floor, dominating in gymnastics. You look at Katie. And some are calling her the most dominant athlete in the world. One particular article that this morning I saw in Inc., let me give the author some credit, Jeff Hayden, contributing editor to Inc., quote, Katie Ledecky is different, and not just because she's arguably the most dominant athlete in the world. It says, how does never losing an international final sound to you? She wins many of her races not by fractions, but by 1 or 2%, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that the similar margin would mean that Chris Froome would win the Tour de France by about 40 minutes. Simone, Katie, heads away above the competition. Now, people are going to say, well, how do they do it? We know resilience has to be a part of it. We know they're tapping into their all-natural being. They're not being inauthentic. And because of that all-natural being, because of being grounded in that grit, I bet you they work a lot harder than you and I do. Ashley said something to me last evening that Lochte is one of the name of swimmers, eats 10,000 calories a day, and the guy looks like he's about 3% body fat. These people bust their butts in order to be an Olympian. But they have the same nomenclature you do. There's an Olympian in you. Now, you may have reached the stage where you go, yeah, Brian, I'm never going to be able to climb into the pool and beat Michael Phelps. I'm never going to be able to get on the floor and beat Simone. I'm never going to be able to get on the floor and beat Katie. Get in the pool and beat Katie. But there's still an Olympian in you. The ability to decide at any moment that I'm going to put in the time, I'm going to do what it takes to tap my all-natural being, to dovetail, to hone my heart with my head and release my natural resources so that I'm victorious. And I just want to bring up this article, the Inc. article, because number 3 really grabbed me. Number 3, she doesn't make backup plans. And it says, hey, in the love of backup plans, quote, backup plans can help you sleep easier at night. Backup plans can also create an easy out when times get tough. According to the article, Ledecky doesn't have a backup plan. She isn't a person who swims. She's a swimmer. She isn't a person who swims. She's a swimmer. What a great way to put it. Total commitment, without a safety net, no rodeo clown. Will spur you to work harder than you've ever imagined possible. So how about your natural resources? What could we plug in there so I could say about you? You could say about you. We can all say about you. She isn't a person who XYZ. She's a XYZer. He isn't a person that does ABC. He's a ABCer. Think about that for a second. If we were going to tap your all-natural being, your inner metahuman, your inner superhuman, what would we be able to say about you once you did? I love the way he put it in this article. Ledecky doesn't have a backup plan. She isn't a person who swims. She is a swimmer. Total commitment without a safety net. Well, that's the labyrinth. And that's the point I'm trying to make about goals. Now, she's never put it this way, and golly, I will try one day to get to meet this young lady and ask her this question. She's a swimmer. Did she get that way through expectation or excavation? Does she feel as if she was born for this? Or did she have to reinvent herself to be a swimmer? Or did she vent her inner swimmer? Does Simone vent her inner athlete, her inner gymnast? Would they agree that it isn't about expectation? It's about an excavation. It's not about a transformation, but a restoration. Would they agree? They didn't compromise on their composition. They turned their back on who they ultimately are. They couldn't have gotten in that position. So again, what could we say about you? You aren't a person who blah, 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 blah. You are a blah, 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 blah. How would you fill in the blank? And that's a part of identifying or beginning to identify some of our natural resources, yes? What would you put in that blank? And that's the key. Because once you're to the point and you're like, nope, I got it now. I know my natural resources. I know my all-natural being. I know exactly what I'm going to pull off. Just like Simone said, I'm not the next Bolt. I'm not the next Phelps. I'm me. How could you answer that? And then what could we do to begin the excavation of that? We don't have to transform you into something you're not already. It's a restoration. It's a venting of who you already are. No more deceptions. No more miseducation. No more counterfeiting. No more plagiarism. Everyone's running around looking for a greater psychology. You want a greater psychology? The greater psychology is that you are your own ultimate advantage. And if there's ever, we talked before about hacking your brain. When people say, oh, hack, they mean it like, oh, a little trick that you can do. No, I mean hacking through the kudzu vines. I mean hacking through the invasive species of blind spots and amnesia that block you from seeing who you already are. So when I talk about hack, I'm machete in hand, swinging away, going, what do we got to do to get these blind spots out of here? I talk about being a pumice stone, a sand blaster. Ooh, one of those water blasters. Ooh, power washers, I think they're called. Or like an eraser at the end of a number 2 pencil. Because I believe once you remove the bubble wrap, which we have to admit, we've outgrown. Unless you're 13 or 14 listening to this, chances are pretty good you and I have outgrown the bubble wrap. And the initiation in life is the recognition. What did Alan Watts call it? This is it. This moment, all of time. Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. The unimaginable power of tapping into this instant in all of time. So if you were going to do that, how would you fill in that blank? What would you say? How would you look at the labyrinth if you knew and you said, okay, here's my through line. I'm not going to set goals. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. And that mission is the unfolding of my all-natural being in this particular moment in all of time. And then I have the courage, I have the confidence to face the next moment in all of time, if I'm lucky enough to get there. And that's the gold that we're all looking for. It's not a management of different levels of unhappiness. That's why I love Simone's quote. I hope to get to meet her one day. She's the first her. And she's amazing to watch. I'm sorry I don't know her exact height, but she is a dynamo. She is a powerhouse. But I will tell you, if I never get to meet her, if I never get to meet Michael Phelps, if I never get to meet Ledecky, if I never get to meet, I'm all fired up about this Armstrong, 40-some years old, just won her third time trial in the Olympics. Let's hear it for us old bags. God love her. And then there's a lady, and I'm hoping it's on the night, but this is like her fifth Olympics in skeet shooting. God love her. But I'll bet you if you had a chance to talk to Simone, you know what she would say to you? And there's a Simone Manuel makes history in the women's 100-meter freestyle. Did you watch her motor through the water last night? I bet if you talk to either Simone, they would realize that their own ultimate advantage, it's in their heart. The grit is in them. Their resilience is in them. So that's why I'm confident saying you're as much an Olympian as they are. Now, you may not have honed all those skills, or I suspect we'd be talking about your name this morning. That doesn't mean we don't have that ability. I like this quote that her teammate gave about her. She says, Simone's just in her own league. Whoever gets second place, that's the winner. And I bet if you asked either of them, or Phelps, or any of the Olympic athletes, they would tell you they realized early on that they were their ultimate advantage. And you have that same ability. You have that same path within. Which is why in those darkest times, as we said in the anaerobic aphorism, within those darkest times, it's best to do it with your eyes open. Pay attention to who you really are. Dark times. Not if you know who you are. Now, is it always perfect? Is it always easy? Is life always, oh, or however angels would they go, whoa? Reminds me a little bit of Ethel Merman when I was growing up.
Oh, silent night.
Sorry, couldn't help it. I tell you, I live just in the labyrinth. I have no filter. When going through dark times, it's best to do it with your eyes open, to be able to see who you really are and what you're really up against, and realize that whatever it is that you're up against, you give it. You believing in it or not believing in it, you give it its energy. You are not a pincushion without being a co-conspirator. It's not the event that makes you feel that way. It's your interpretation of the event that makes you feel that way. So when going through dark times, it's best to open your eyes. You want to use that NLP technique we were talking about earlier? Then watch a movie of you watching a movie, of you watching a movie. I'm all over it. God love you. But so many of us, we go through these dark times with blinders on. We look down. We don't look in. We look down. We forget who we ultimately are. We forget that one of our resources is resilience. And I don't give a crap who you are. Doesn't matter your name, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your sex, doesn't matter any of that. I can tell you right now that you have that resilience. It's built into you. Now, it may have atrophied a bit. You have that wisdom. It's pre-wired into you. Now, it may have atrophied a bit. But the beauty of all these studies of late in neuroplasticity is that it is never too late to reconnect, to revive, and then to release those natural resources in this particular moment in all of time. That's a part of who you are. May have forgotten it, may be dormant, but it's most certainly not dead. You are your own ultimate advantage. In any scenario, any situation, any circumstance, any left or right, up or down, pivot or swerve in the labyrinth, you are the deal. Just got to remember it. You're sent here to crush the labyrinth. Gary Vaynerchuk's got that book, the title of the book, Crush It. You're here to do that. You're here to do that. Now, I'm not saying that that means everyone will. That's what makes you and I a part of the minority. And if you hear me say those things, and you have to know, do you feel it or not? Do you see it or not? When you look in, do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you hear that still small voice, that whisper? That's the journey. When you reconnect with that still small voice, you're ready to go in the labyrinth. And again, I didn't read it this morning, but I bet if you got a chance to speak to Simone or Michael or any of the other, not just the people that win gold, because some of these people are winning gold by the smallest margin. It's like, oh, the silver, he or she was almost right there as well. Any of these world-class athletes, these Olympians at that level, they'll tell you, I realized early on, or maybe I realized a little later, that I'm my own ultimate advantage. And you absolutely have that same ability. So enough with the learned helplessness. It's not for you and me. Leave that for the couch potatoes. Leave that for the Venus flytraps, the walking, talking pits of never-ending quicksand. That's their mantra. Our mantra, thank you for a shot at it. And I'll take it from here. I'll manifest my destiny. So how can we do it specifically tonight when we get ready to fall asleep? Make a list. Pull out your journal, your blotter. What are 3 things that you just absolutely crushed today? What were 3 ways where you said, I'm not an XYZer. I'm not a person who XYZs. I am that thing. How would you fill in the blank? Even if you ask yourself that question today, it makes you a part of the minority. It makes you a part of that select group of people tapping into their all-natural being. Tapping into those instincts, that intuition that is yours. Making yourself your own ultimate advantage. Simply by believing and recalling that you already are. I think we should take some credit for that at the end of the day when you get ready to fall asleep. Put that on your list. As you prepare for the weekend, what are some of the natural resources? What are some of the things that you know you're already a badass at? And how could you do it? How could you manifest those impromptu, spur of the moment, right? Scheduled? How could you do it? How would you tap into one of those natural resources this weekend and bring your own bold? Put that down on your list. Because even the thought of, here's one I have, here's what I could do, here's how I'll make it happen. You got to be careful sometimes, because to be honest with you, with me, when I start going through it, I get too excited to fall asleep. Like, right? So I find myself saying thank you multiple times. Our goal at All Natural Being is to unearth who you already are. Because when we unearth your ultimate advantage, you're going to be standing around going, holy crap, really? It's been me this whole time? Yes. When we unearth, when we excavate, when we restore, when we reinstate who you are in the marrow of your mind, in the core of your heart, in the very girth of your spine, you're going to go, holy cow, I guess I am the ultimate advantage. And that, my friend, makes you a spiritual self-defense expert, makes you a spiritual survival expert, makes you a part of a pretty cool minority. Before we get out of here, I want to thank everybody once again this week for all they've done to help keep us as the #1 rated show here on IPM Nation. Too many people to call out by name, but I want you to know I super appreciate it. And what I really appreciate is being your tag team partners, being your shotgun, being a part of your 1-2 punch in unearthing who you already are. have an absolutely fantastic weekend. I'm obviously fired up to be hanging out with you again Monday. Whether you're here, whether you're here live or listen to the tape, whatever you got planned for the weekend, I hope you knock it out of the park. All right, we got to get out of here. Love you guys. See you Monday.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
Sorry, I got to stop watching some of these videos as the show closes. I can just tell you quickly, here's a guy with a snow shovel shoveling out the water running in front of his house, shoveling out the water, and he shovels it upstream, goes right back into the water, and runs back down again. Oh, you got to love human beings. Have a fantastic weekend.
IPMNation.com.